What up? It's your girl Sharice, and I have a special guest on Connect Like Minds today. He's a multi-million platinum selling artist known for his hits This Is Why I'm Hot and How You Want to Move. Now he's making a name for himself in the tech industry. That's no other than Mims. What's good?
What's happening? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Just getting a lot of work done. Summertime is a little hot. I'm not sure where you guys are based out of, but I'm in New York, so we get like funky weather here. So 1 minute it's cold, 1 minute it's hot, but yeah,
it's hot and wet here. It's been raining in North Carolina all day, so.
Oh man, well, hopefully you guys get some sunshine down that way.
I hope so. It's supposed to stop raining on Wednesday, but I'm hoping for tomorrow.
Cool.
Now we're gonna jump right into the interview. So, you're known as a rapper, and you're known for your single "This Is Why I'm Hot," and it peaked at #1 in the Billboard Hot 100. Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we?
Okay.
How was life for you growing up as a kid in Washington Heights, New York?
I mean, honestly, it was great for me. Obviously, I had a couple of hardships growing up, but I'll go back. I guess I'll bring you back to the beginning. Obviously, my family comes from Jamaica originally, and Washington Heights in New York is like right above Harlem. For those who don't know where it's at, it's an area in Manhattan that's a little bit above Harlem, and it's normally known to have like a lot of Dominican people around there. So I was kind of like the only Jamaican family, I felt like, kind of growing up amongst a lot of Dominicans. So I would hang out in Harlem, but I would also obviously have my clique and crew that I would hang out with in Washington Heights. So growing up was kind of cool because I got to see two different sides of like lifestyle. So I got to see how Dominicans live, and then I also got to see my heritage on the Jamaican side with my family being around. So all was good, man, growing up. I have no complaints. I know that obviously probably not sure what you guys read or know out there, but I did lose both my parents by the time I hit the age of 13. So that was kind of the hardship side of growing up. But shortly after, that's kind of when I got introduced into the whole music world, starting out by like doing DJing and then going from DJing into production, and then eventually becoming a writer, and then becoming a hip-hop artist. So, that was my childhood.
Okay. Now, speaking about your childhood, now you said your family is Jamaican American. Was your mother a good cook? Do you remember her, whipping it up in the kitchen?
Yeah. She was. So I guess to explain her character, from what I remember, she was free-spirited, but definitely a great cook. She liked to have fun. She liked to do things spontaneously. So even as kids, we find ourselves traveling to different places, whether it be the Poconos, whether it be Florida, whether it be Jamaica. She always made sure that we kind of like, she worked hard, so she always made sure that we kind of celebrated in her own way. Which, like you said, included like eating. So whether it be going out to eat or her throwing it down in the kitchen, she was definitely a great cook.
That's what's up. Now, like you mentioned, you lost your both of your parents by the age of 13. Were there some things that stuck out to you that your parents taught you that you kept along the way?
So my mother raised me. My father wasn't around. He didn't live too far from what I remember, but he actually passed away when I was 11. But I never really had much interaction with him. The only thing that I got from my father growing up, as far as my own interaction or remembering that time, was that he actually had two turntables. When I went to visit him, the one time that I could remember, he actually had two turntables, and I could remember asking my mom, well, what are those things that are sitting on the table? And then that's when she said the turntable. And I remember from like the age of like 9 all the way up to 13, I would tug on her and ask her, to buy me a pair of turntables. And she eventually did. So I guess what I'm saying is that even though I didn't know my father, the music side of it was something that I kind of adapted from him. From the lack of knowledge of not knowing him, I kind of gravitated towards wanting to see what he did, and that was DJing. So, so for my father, even though I didn't know him, I think the music stood out. That side of it stood out to me. And then obviously my mother, 13 years of raising me, single parent mom. I got a lot of things embedded in me, based on, just things like live for the day or live for the moment. Try to experience as much as you can in life. Be happy, be joyous, because you never know when your last day on earth could be. So there's a lot that I've obviously learned from her directly and indirectly growing up and being around her.
Okay. Do you believe that the environment you grew in helped you pretty much see the authenticity of hip-hop? Because, Washington Heights, like you said, is near Harlem. So, you were right there. Did that help shape how you saw hip-hop?
I think hip hop is one of those things that no matter where you are on the planet, you gain influence by who you're around, and as well as who you listen to. And these people tend to inspire you without you even knowing, especially when it comes to music, because the thing about music is it's everywhere. You turn on the radio, you turn on the television, you look on social media nowadays, and you see, or you listen, you hear music everywhere. So I think Washington Heights had a lot to do with teaching me that there was more out there. But honestly, it wasn't until after my mom passed away, I had to actually move to the suburbs. I moved to Long Island, and that's when my palette got open, because that's when I started to visualize people who looked like me, who weren't subjected to hustling or selling drugs. And I got to see middle class or even, I guess white collar individuals that made a certain amount of money and had grass and nice homes. That kind of opened my palette. As far as the music is concerned, being in New York in general, you're going to get influence from some of the greatest MCs to ever live, i.e., Jay-Z, Biggie, Nas, even Tupac, even though he was on the West Coast at the time. You get influence from a lot of these guys, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and then you start to get in the studio and you start to kind of develop around what you grew up listening to. So I don't know if it's a New York thing. We definitely have a different respect for music in New York than I think a lot of other places do. Not that people don't respect it, but you're raised, you're taught to kind of respect a certain aspect of the lyrical game being in New York, that I guess some places they don't really pay that much more attention to.
Right. Okay. Now,
which is a gift and a curse, by the way.
Say that again?
I was going to say, which is a gift and a curse, because, many people look at New York as this big egotistical bubble that says that we love music, but we criticize it too much. And then obviously there's those who understand that, when you come up in this type of area, your expectancy to do certain things lyrically is always looked at more than it is about, the style of beat you choose or, the kind of clothes you're wearing. So it's a lot that comes with it, but,
Yeah, it's totally a lot of different variables. So I agree with you. Now, you mentioned earlier that you didn't know what we read up on, but I read your bio, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it said that you dropped out of school to take your music career to the next level, pretty much. And I wanted to know, did you consult with anyone before you made that decision? And was that college that you dropped out of, or a type of technical school?
So I was always a straight A student. Throughout my whole, lower learning, not higher learning education, but all the way up into high school, I was straight A, honor roll. One of the things about growing up, especially with no parents, and obviously growing up in a place like New York, even New York City, is that we don't have the guidance that many other places have that say, you can go to college, you can get a higher education. And because the way we looked at college growing up was it's too expensive. Who the hell is going to pay for college? So college was never really like something in my forecast until I got to Long Island and I started to realize that was something that was feasible. And by that time, I think I was already in 11th grade. And that was the time that kids were already applying to, or like looking at the colleges they wanted to go to. So I was a late bloomer when it came to college. However, my grades were going to permit me to get into any college I wanted. I would have just had to pay the tuition. So instead of attending like a Ivy League school or anything in that realm, I decided to go to a community college, which was a pretty good community college in Long Island called Nassau Community College. But honestly, I think that I'm just one of those individuals that I learn better being hands-on than I do reading a textbook. And what I was going to school for was business. So I was doing liberal arts and math and science in the beginning, but really I wanted it to kind of graduate into a business degree. And, you know, I always used to say to myself, what better experience in life than the experience of success and failure? So I'd rather just get my feet wet in the business world. So I decided that college wasn't for me. But I do advocate higher education for other people, because you never know what, you know, depending on what you want to go to school for, it could be very lucrative for you. And I'm starting to learn that now with the world that I exist in now, that education is 100% important in life, and what you want to do. Mm-hmm.
I agree. Now, during that time, were you like working any part-time jobs, or were you like specifically like doing shows to help you get, fund your career, your music career?
I'm Jamaican, so I was working every job that I could at the time.
I believe it.
Yeah, so
that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, at one point in time, I was doing school. I had two, or I might even had 3 jobs at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And I was doing school and I was pursuing music. So there wasn't enough hours in the day to keep me asleep or put me to rest or whatever. I made sure that every hour of the day was utilized towards doing something. And honestly, music was always in the forefront, but at the same time, I wake up because I'm still an early riser. I wake up early in the morning. At that time, I would go to work. Then I would leave work, go to school, leave school, go to another job. And then when I get home, I spend the next 7 to 8 hours locked in, writing some music, producing some music in the studio with my friends. So, for me, I look at time differently than other people. A lot of people, they look at it like, I don't have enough time to do this and do that. And I look at it like, man, if there's an hour in the day, then I'm going to figure out how to get everything that I need to get done in that time. I've always had that mentality. Absolutely. Okay. So, I worked and I did music.
Okay. How did you end up connecting with Wyclef?
It's funny because I'm gonna tell you the honest truth, because I've met Wyclef on several occasions, but I've never technically connected with him on the music side. So I'm gonna say this: most of the stuff that you read, for whatever reason, there's this site called Wikipedia, and I don't know why I don't like it, but they allow anyone to edit your story and then put their like anyone can go in there and say, hey man, I just hung out in the studio with Mims, and he likes the color purple, and they can go and type and edit that, and a lot of it isn't true. So I will say this: I never actually worked with Wyclef, or at least I don't think I do, but we definitely crossed paths on several occasions. Very talented person. He did a contest on my platform. One of my business partners is actually working with him really closely. So he actually blessed my new software platform, my music software platform, with a contest. So great dude. It was great. Obviously, he's a great dude to be around. But musically, we've actually never worked with each other.
Okay. I was looking everywhere, and I did see that on Wikipedia, but I was like, well, I'm still
Gotcha.
going to ask. I'm still going to ask.
It's all good. It's all good.
So, getting into your music career, who discovered you?
That's a tough question. So I would like to say that I discovered myself, and I know that sounds like really crazy, but here's the reason why. When I first came out, I was signed to I guess a production company, and they got my feet wet with what the business entailed. But leaving that situation quickly after the year that I was signed to them, getting out of that situation, I never wanted to be signed to anyone again. And so when I got out of that situation, I quickly formulated my own company, found my own business partners, and I started my own label, my own record label. And honestly, up until this date, I've never been signed to anyone except myself, except my own company. Even when I did my upstream deal with the major label, I had a true partnership with them, and I wasn't signed to them as an artist.
Okay, so my next question is, when your single "This Is Why I'm Hot" came out, was that during your production deal, or was that when you started your own label?
Yeah, so "This Is Why I'm Hot." I did a joint venture situation with a company who pretty much funded me. I want to say they gave me a radio budget to work with. It was somewhere in the upwards of $150,000. So what it is you do a true partnership, which says you give me this $150,000, I'll find the music, I go out and put it out, and then whatever money gets generated, we split it half and half, 50%. So they basically cut the check for radio. I went out there and I, hit the road, and me and my team, we pretty much took that record independently and charted it, and then that's when we got the attention of the major label.
That's awesome. Wow. That is big. Not everybody can have that story.
Yeah, and it's crazy because even nowadays I look at artists and I see the impact that they make on social media, on the internet, and the first question I always ask is why? Because everyone always says, "Man, I want to get a record deal. I want to get a record deal," and I always ask them, "Well, why? What do you think that entails?" And they could never answer the question because I think for them it's the accolade. They want to say that they got signed to someone, but if you really think about that and you hear it and you listen to it. Why would anyone want to be signed to someone? That's basically modern day slavery. You're enslaving yourself to work for someone else because you're signing a contract that says that now I have to work for you. And I never wanted to feel that way. So for me, it was highly important that whatever deals I've done, even now to this day in life, that it's either I have ownership in it or I'm not doing it at all. I want nothing to do with it.
Okay. What was the inspiration behind your single, "This Is Why I'm Hot"?
Frustration, probably more than anything. It was frustration, and it's funny because if you listen to the lyrics, the first lyric that you'll hear is, "This is why I'm hot. I don't gotta rap. I could sell a mill saying nothing on the track." And a lot of people thought that I was disrespecting the name of hip hop by saying that. But really and truly, I was frustrated because at that time, that was the state of music. And it was one of those things where a lot of the songs we listened to and loved, and they didn't really have any content, lyrical content. Right. And me being a New York artist, I was bred on, well, if you rap, you got to say something. If you're saying something, it got to mean something. If people are listening, they got to take something from it. And it's not always about being political, but even if you're talking about being in a club, it had to be, well, I'm in the club and then, I'm drinking a drink and then I'm dancing and I'm leaving the club. It had to mean something. Nowadays, and it's no disrespect to music, but nowadays when you listen to music, it's all over the place. So you could be talking about broccoli in one sentence and then turn around and talk about stop sign in another. So I think for me, I was frustrated. Exactly. So it's all over the place. And for me, I was so frustrated that I remember listening to a beat and I started kind of freestyling. my manager and great friend at the time was in the room with me, and we were I was just freestyling. I'm like, man, you know, I'm tired of like doing all these records. I had just honestly, because I remember Obama. I just did this record based on like politics, and I remember Obama had just started his campaign, and it was his name was buzzing and getting out there. And I said to myself, you know what? Like I can't do that because people don't understand that. So I said, let me stop talking about this or politics or whatever, and let me just do whatever comes to mind. And that's really kind of how you got This Is Why I'm Hot. It was honestly probably more freestyle than anything, which you could probably, if you listen to it now, you'll hear that there was really no effort put into the lyrics. And I think that's what made it catchy. So it's like the gift and the curse. When people heard it and they were like, oh, I love this, because they related to it. They wanted to be hot and they wanted to be fly, but it really doesn't have a meaning at all. I guess, which is the cool part about it.
Okay, cool. Now, when your album, Music Is My Savior, dropped and the albums were sold, did the projected numbers match or exceed the actual numbers that, you know, you sold, or amount of albums?
So music was in a funny place then. So I guess this is kind of like the epitome of my music career, where people would say, well, how do we gauge his success? So it's crazy because back then it was, if you sold a certain amount of albums, you were considered successful. I mean, if you remember, I don't know if it was Lil Wayne or like whatever album that was, but he had just sold like 1 million copies the first week, you know, and that was like what they deemed successful. And then here I come along like maybe, you know, a few months after, and I'm moving these ringtones, I'm moving these digital downloads. I think we were pushing like $250,000 a week in download sales. And then when the album dropped, I think we did 80,000 the first week. And when people saw those numbers, they're like, oh, well, this is not successful. And truth be told, I had to take a lot of that on my chin, like as a rapper, because I was the first of that kind to kind of have digital success, but the physical sales didn't match. And I had to go out there, and I remember trying to talk to the public, because obviously when you're campaigning to sell an album, as much people go behind the production and the marketing of the album, really and truly the artist is the only one who's looked at some type of way when things don't go well or when things don't go as expected. And I remember going like to do a few interviews after the album dropped and having to explain to people like, yo, you guys got it messed up. Like, you know, y'all looking at the physical sales, but physical sales are going to be gone. I give it another 2 to 3 years, and nobody's going to be buying physical albums. Why? Because Apple just came out with this product called the iPhone, or the iPod, and I'm not sure if it was the iPod or the iPhone at the time, and they have this thing called iTunes, and it allows you to put your music, store your music right in your pocket. You could have thousands and thousands of songs. So why would anybody go out and buy physical CDs? And I remember having this conversation with stations and television shows over and over and over again, to the point where I was like, look, man, you guys will see. And now fast forward, 12 years later, that's all you see now. I mean, you rarely hear anyone selling CDs. And more, matter of fact, even the digital download side is arguable, because we don't even download music anymore. We stream everything. So
Digital Dope Radio.